Tell you what, it's the Memorial Weekend holiday. It's been absolutely beautiful out here all weekend. Zero complaints on the weather. If you're complaining about the weather, you didn't spend much time outside. Now, granted, we're over in Wisconsin. We're not in the Twin Cities, so I can't give you an exact report for what it's like back home. But assuming it's anything like this, it's pretty amazing. You know, this last week has been pretty good. We've been around Lake Minnetonka. We've been to a number of different areas within the Twin Cities region, chasing down, let's say, mostly bass. We've encountered a lot of pike, thrown a lot of moving baits. Water temps are in the upper 60s. Kids are starting to swim. You're seeing people out on pontoons and tubing. It's happening. So things progress very quickly here in the last couple of weeks. Man, just a couple weeks ago, we were talking about cold conditions, bundling up, mid 30s, windy, damp. Ugh. Now we're talking about 80s and 70s and 60 degrees when you wake up in the morning, and just beautiful weather, which is really pushing this system of fishing right to where it needs to be. The bass are spawning, they're on their beds. Be selective, be respectful of that. Crappies are kind of finishing up their spawn. Bluegills are already starting to stage to spawn, which in my opinion, in some parts, that's pretty early. I usually look at bluegill spawn that first week of June as being kind of the pinnacle. And right now we're talking about end of May, seeing some bluegills start to stack up on their spawning spots, which is neat. Again, practice selective harvest, be respectful of the resource. You want to be able to fish these fish for years to come. So if you're seeing all these bluegills on their beds, maybe don't sit and pluck them all off and fill the live well. You don't realize it now, but it can actually be detrimental to that fishery in the future if everyone's doing that. So those are some easy, quick things to think about. As we start to see the sun and start to see these higher sun conditions, it's hotter on our body, it's more damaging to our skin, right? That's where the sun shirts come into play. Suntan lotion, a hooded sweatshirt, buffs, sunglasses. Sunglasses don't just help you see in the water, but they protect your eyes. So I'm always wearing my sunglasses when I'm fishing, even when it's cloudy, and I tell this to my kids, hooks pop off, things happen. It's eye protectant as much as it is super cool to use my relevance and say, oh, look at that fish and look at that fish and see in the water, and it's exciting. But I've had lures bounce off my face. Again, the sun damages my eyes. So a pair of good sunglasses is super important. And I rock the relevance. I use the chameleon green lenses, the freshwater green. Absolutely love these. I can see all the colors I want to see in the world of fishing extremely well. Super neat stuff. So I want to dive into how we're catching some fish. I'm going to talk walleyes. I'm gonna talk a little bit of walleyes right now, because here in Wisconsin, we're catching a lot of walleyes, and there's a distinct way we're doing it. And I'm probably gonna give away a secret that I probably shouldn't be, because I know a lot of people around us on this lake right now are not catching them and they're struggling, and we're doing very, very, very well. We'll talk about that, but first, the bass fishing. Wacky rigs, wacky rig Comito, wacky rig pocket fry, absolutely king right now. If you know the fish are there, nothing else is biting better than a wacky rig. Slow fall, where these fish are, trust that it's there, and anything different, whether it's a tick, a bump, a movement, hook sets are free, set the hook and bring them home. That's probably the most foolproof way to catch them. I'm also catching a lot of fish on all-terrain swim jigs. I'm catching a lot of fish on chatterbaits, some swim baits. Those kind of be our go-to presentations right now. Moving bait, cover water, this and that. Slow down, wacky rig, set the hook, bring them home. It's been a really 1-2 punch, easy way right now, easy way. Anyone can go out there and catch fish. Don't need to use a bait caster if that's not your thing. You can chuck a chatterbait in a spinning rod. My kids do it all the time. Easy way to catch largemouth bass right now. As far as the walleye go, I wanted to talk about a couple ways we've been catching them. I've been using a drop TG, and we've gone up to a 3/16 size, and this is a small 2.5, 3-inch profile minnow. This happens to be a Largo shad. It really emulates what these fish are feeding on out in this body of water right now. You can see that's just a small presentation. And I went to a 3/16. A lot of guys are like, well, that seems kind of heavy. Well, here's the deal. We're casting actually off the dock at times, catching fish too. And we're launching it out there. We want to drag this thing across the bottom. The guys that are pulling cranks, the guys that are slip bobber fishing, the guys that are doing a number of different things are struggling to catch walleyes right now. I'll tell you what, these walleyes are literally bottom hugging. You use the term gravel lizard and laugh about it, but this is exactly what these fish are doing right now. They are bottom hugging this gravel, these rocks, and we are dragging this bait right along the bottom. as it looks like it's a minnow feeding, swimming right along the bottom, and that's how we're catching our fish. We have 10 or 15 pound mainline braid, and then we got a 6 or an 8 pound fluorocarbon leader. We're using 7-foot medium light action rods. I got a Stratic 2500 on here. We also have a Vanford that we've been fishing with. Super easy setup, super simple. And then the other setup I've been fishing myself and getting bit on really well is same thing, that drop TG high vis, and I'm using a Sassy Swimmer. This thing's just a mean looking 3.5 inch, 4 inch profile, thin bodied, dragging that thing across the bottom, kind of a little bit of hops, a little bit of shakes. A little different setup for me. I'm using a medium light action Predator blank from Thorn Brothers, custom built. I love this. I have it knocked out to 7.6. I'm using a 10 pound Berkeley nano-filled main line and a 6 pound fluorocarbon leader. That thing's just got some of the meanest action of any rod out there. You can call Lonnie or his team at Thorn Brothers and they'll build this for you. But that's been my go-to right there. Catching a lot of walleyes on that. Some bass and pike too. And again, the 2500 series Shimano has been my setup of choice. Those are littered across the deck of my boat right now, because in the evenings when the sun goes down, we're lined up here on the dock, on the pontoon, on the fishing boat, wherever, chucking way out in the middle of the lake, slowly reeling in. We're getting a bunch of different walleyes. Bluegills, crappies are catching. They're doing their thing. Little hair jigs under a float, not a problem. Otherwise, it's been a great weekend. Again, take a moment here tomorrow to really think about the purpose of this holiday, though. I want to reiterate that everyone's out here having fun, grilling, having beers, doing their thing. But really, it's Memorial Weekend. It's to always remember, never forget those that gave the ultimate sacrifice so that we can even do this. That's what Memorial Weekend's all about. So say a prayer for a loved one that maybe has lost their battle there, or anyone you might know, and remember to always remember and never forget those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. That's what the true meaning of Memorial Day is about, that we acknowledge those that allow us to have these freedoms and enjoy this great sport of fishing with our family and friends. So get out there, have some fun, be safe, and as always, we'll catch you next week.